Hey y'all, it's the start of a new year and Prime Video has added a long list of movies on January 1st, but most of them are absolute crap. But I filtered through all of them. I'm going to tell you about the best ones they've added as well as the best things they're adding throughout the month of January, including a couple of brand new series that do look interesting. Thanks to Magic Spoons for sponsoring this video, but let's go ahead with some of my top recommendations for January, which do include a handful of lesser known or hidden gem movies. Movies like The Death of Dick Long. Now trust me when I say this is a weird one if the title didn't clue you in enough. This is actually from one of the two guys named Daniel that directed Everything Everywhere All at Once and Swiss Army Man. And while this doesn't feel like either of those movies, it's equally as weird, yet it feels much more grounded and realistic than those other movies, which somehow makes it even weirder. If you're not the least bit intrigued by the title of this movie, then there's a very good chance you're not gonna like where this one ends up. A star-studded, twisted, sort of Hitchcockian thriller that just got, I think, criminally overlooked is Side Effects. This is actually directed by Steven Soderbergh, who's a very famous director and I think knocked it out of the park, again, with sort of a Hitchcock-style thriller here. This one's loaded with twists and turns, and it's dark and twisted, but not in a totally off-putting way. This one's pretty accessible for mass audiences, is loaded with surprises, some top-notch performances, and it's just an all-around dynamite thriller. Another dynamite thriller that I highly recommend actually comes from 1956 and is one of Stanley Kubrick's earliest movies and one of his more by-the-book movies, I guess we could say. This one is actually a heist flick, and it is fairly slow-paced. There's a lot of planning of the heist, but this one too is filled with twists and turns and is very well directed. It builds up tension really well and doesn't really leave anything on the table. You get a lot of thrills out of a fairly simple story with this movie, but it's also loaded with some unnecessarily elaborate filmmaking techniques filmmakers are still lifting. I mean, just to name one, Kill Bill features multiple shots that were lifted directly from The Killing. So movie nerds, if you haven't watched this one yet, you need to see it. I could say the same thing about my next pick, Life Force, even though it's a drastically different movie. This is actually directed by Tobe Hooper, who's most famous for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but here you get sort of an alien vampire type movie that actually works. There's some wonky stuff in this movie, but also some practical effects that still look really cool today, and some practical effects that look entertainingly cheesy today. While this is not a top shelf movie, it's loaded with wild moments and is a pretty wild 1980s adult-centered sci-fi flick. Now, if you want to watch a mature sci-fi flick that's not wild and crazy and over the top, it's a little more realistic, I recommend Europa Report. Now, this is a small movie that's been bouncing around on streaming services for a decade now, but if you've yet to see it, it's essentially kind of a found footage style movie about the first manned expedition to Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter. Now, this one is a very slow burn, but there is something interesting happening. If you can be patient, there's quite a payoff for this one, especially for such a low budget sci-fi movie. Europa Report works surprisingly well. Now, a 90s sort of action comedy thriller that has just been forgotten with time that I still think has merit is Money Train. And the main reason it has merit is it's Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson. But keep in mind, this movie's practically 30 years old, and it does look like it. J-Lo was in this. Again, this is 30 years ago. I can't believe she's been in movies that long. On a similar note, they are adding Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2. Two movies that I do think are superior to Money Train, but odds are most of you watching have either forgotten or not seen Money Train, whereas I would imagine most of us have gotten enough Bad Boys.
Put the gun down and give me a pack of tropical fruit Bubblicious.
And some Skittles.
And then Valkyrie, starring Tom Cruise. I thought this was an excellent World War II flick that's got a lot of espionage and intrigue, and it's based on a true story of Nazis trying to assassinate Hitler. It falls a little flat for a Tom Cruise movie, but is still pretty excellent and made it into my top picks of the month. Some other top picks that include some more well-known movies include Pulp Fiction, a movie I just never get tired of no matter how many times I see it.
Whose motorcycle is this?
It's a chopper, baby.
Whose chopper is this?
Zed's.
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
Same goes for No Country for Old Men. If it's been a while since you've seen that, Trust me, rewatch it and take note of the fact that there's not a single note of music in the entire movie, which is pretty amazing that it can still hold your attention. Just such a well-directed flick. They're adding Saving Private Ryan. I know this one bounces around on streaming services, but I personally have not seen it in years, so this might be the month for me. And then they're putting a whole bunch of Mission Impossible movies, actually 1 through 4. Those have been bouncing around services as well, with a new movie out this summer, but if you somehow missed some of them, the first and the fourth are two of my favorites out of the whole series. For some more action, they're also adding San Andreas, starring The Rock. Not his best movie, but not a terrible disaster movie either. And if that's not enough muscle for you, they're also adding Conan the Barbarian, the original with Schwarzenegger. I believe that just left Netflix and bounced over here. And finally, the original Mad Max is getting added. Believe it or not, the first one is not my favorite out of the bunch, but still a dynamite flick and a great time to watch it with Fury Road releasing early in the summer. Those of you that have been watching the show long enough have probably noticed that the muscles are fairly new, and I get them, believe it or not, from moderate exercise, eating a lot of meat, and today's sponsor, Magic Spoon, which is a delicious high-protein treat that tastes just like cereals you remember when you were a kid. Each bowl of Magic Spoon has only 4 to 5 net grams of carbs, but 13 to 14 grams of protein. With 0 sugar and only 140 calories per bowl, Magic Spoon has become my late-night snack of choice. Magic Spoon is also keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free. Magic Spoon has become a delightful way of sneaking in all that extra protein at the end of a long day, and Magic Spoon satisfies my sweet tooth. My favorite way to do it is combining peanut butter and chocolate. It's a classic combination, and this combo is not too sweet, but if you like sweet, I recommend going for the frosted or the fruity, but they've got a bunch of other flavors to choose from. They also have these new treats that do come in peanut butter and chocolate combos, and the marshmallow, which I highly recommend. And right now, as one of my viewers, you can save $5 on your first order with Magic Spoon when you just go to magicspoon.com/flick. I'll put a link in the video description, but it's easy enough to find. If you're not sure what flavor to get, I recommend going with a variety pack and at least 1 box of the treats. You're not gonna regret it. Again, to save $5 off your first order, go to magicspoon.com/flick. But speaking of great stuff, let's talk about the rest of the movies on this list. Now, we're still talking about things that they've already added to Prime Video, and then we'll jump to some things coming out later in the month. But for some laughs, they're adding The Bad Guys, an animated family movie from DreamWorks. It's based on a best-selling kids book and does have some kind of old-fashioned humor in it, so it is a good family watch. But they're also adding Bridesmaids.
It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. It happened.
And as if by magic, a movie that only gets funnier with time, Step Brothers.
I never asked you. Yeah. You like guacamole? Oh! Oh, God! Run in! Run in!
And The Cable Guy, another 90s throwback that I think is still well worth checking out today. Now on the 9th, they're adding a thriller I have not seen yet. It's a fairly new release titled The Passenger. The main character here goes along for a ride with a co-worker who has snapped and goes on a killing spree. The villain here is actually played by Kyle Gallner, who I think is just great in everything. This one's got good ratings on IMDb and is one I'll be watching as soon as it releases, and if I recommend it, you can guarantee you'll see it on future episodes here on the channel. On the 16th, they're adding Fast 10, the latest Fast and the Furious movies, and I'll be really honest, I have thoroughly enjoyed a handful of the more recent Fast and the Furious movies. I feel like they found their tone and the movies became very self-aware and were just fun and entertaining. And I could not get through Fast 10. I think it's maybe the cheesiest one they've ever made, which is really saying something. If you really love these movies, I'm sure there's enough to enjoy with Fast 10. But my goodness, I think the series may be actually running out of gas. On the same day, though, they are adding Burn After Reading. Not my favorite Coen Brothers movie, but still a good one.
And you give us the money, dickwad!
On the 19th, they're adding a project they seem to be very proud of. It is a new remake series of Zorro. It is actually a period piece. It doesn't take place in modern day or anything silly like that, and it is Spanish language. Some of the actors involved and the production style of it all look pretty top-notch, and again, Prime Video is pretty proud of it. But I was not impressed with the trailer and don't think it's something I'll be checking out, but who knows, it could be kind of a surprise hit for him. On the 23rd, Kevin James has a brand new stand-up special. If you've ever been a fan of his in any capacity, whether his sitcom, movies, or his stand-up, this is going to be the thing to watch. Prime Video does not invest a lot in stand-up comedy, but when they do, they tend to pick really great acts, and I've only seen one Kevin James stand-up special before. I thought it was dynamite. I hope he does some great stuff here as well. And then finally on the 26th, they're adding a new series that they are clearly very proud of. It's going to be high drama stuff. It actually stars Nicole Kidman, who always makes great choices, especially when she decides to do TV. It's titled Expats, and it focuses on a tight-knit group of expatriates living in Hong Kong. And this was directed by the same woman who did a little-known movie titled The Farewell. She's kind of an up-and-coming director, but the trailer for Expats looks fantastic. It looks like high drama stuff. And again, Nicole Kidman, not only is she excellent, but she tends to make really great choices with her movies and television appearances. So this is going to be one to watch out for towards the end of the month. But that is the list. Don't forget to go check out the Magic Spoon link in the video description below. But I'll keep making these videos as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this Prime Video episode, and you will see me on the next one.